Are you here to talk about how great the weather is?
There's a reason behind the great weather.
Yeah?
Okay.
Well,
and
that's
there's
good.
a reason why we can forecast that great weather, and it's because of weather forecast models.
I love it.
And someone has to develop those models so that we can predict the future.
Yeah, true.
And that's the jobs of the Environmental Modeling Center. So we're continuing our NCEP series this week, the National Centers for Environmental Prediction within the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We talked about weather outside of our atmosphere, space weather last week. This week we're talking about the Environmental Modeling Center. So when we show weather forecasts on air, hour by hour forecast, they're derived from these global or regional forecast models that are developed by the Environmental Modeling Center. So for example, their flagship model is the GFS, the Global Forecasting System, and that solves equations of our atmosphere for every couple of hours into the future for several weeks out. And it's used throughout the entire globe. So it's not just that regional zoomed in view over North Dakota that we're oftentimes showing. It's solving these equations for precipitation, cloud cover, humidity, wind speed, etc., all throughout the entire globe on grid spacing. So again, it's developed by the Environmental Modeling Center. They're responsible for the development and implementation of more than 20 of these weather forecast models. They're called numerical weather prediction systems. They transition these systems, once they develop them, into operations for us to use for the National Weather Service, the entire weather enterprise. They're located in College Park, Maryland. So numerical weather prediction uses mathematical models, all these fancy, complicated physics equations of our systems on Earth. So that's the oceans, how they're coupled with the atmosphere all throughout the different layers, solving those equations based on current conditions, surface observations, radar, temperature, wind speed. Those are fed into the models. We launch weather balloons to get current conditions. We use satellites to get information throughout the entire atmosphere all around the globe in areas where it's not possible to sample atmospheric conditions on the ground or in the air from airplanes or the like. So again, you're putting all of these initial conditions into these numerical weather prediction systems to predict the future in a sense. And it's based on a grid. So you have a specific grid size, and that has gotten smaller over time. That's a good thing because that's better resolution, better spatial resolution that you have these grids. They're only a couple miles from side to side as well as vertically in the atmosphere, because each one of these grid spaces then has to correlate or interact with the nearby grid spaces. So you're solving each one of these equations for the future for each one of these grid spaces. So it's really complicated here, but you're using these models to solve the future of our atmosphere and how that interacts on a global sphere. So there's three branches in the Environmental Modeling Center. The Modeling and Data Assimilation branch. They develop the models, what goes into them, get the best initial state of the atmosphere to plug that in. You have the Engineering and Implementation branch. They help to get the model into a workflow that hopefully doesn't crash. And then the Verification, Post-Processing, and Product Generation branch. They fix the models, identify biases that happen with the models, and how to get the most out of those models. So it's a collaborative process, especially between these two branches here, where you're developing the model, you're evaluating it for any issues, the modelers then fix that model and send it back to the evaluators, kind of this back and forth here, where you're improving these forecasts over time. And if it's a big problem, they can perform a crisis fix. Otherwise, they try to combine all these fixes together into a newer model upgrade. So you want to make sure that the model upgrade is better than what you already have. Usually they have to run it through forecasts of the past 3 years just to make sure that it performs well in all of the different seasons and doesn't have too many biases. So we're going to hear from Alicia Bentley here in a second. She's part of the Global Verification Project, the part of that model evaluation group, which looks at case studies of high impact weather events, performance compared to similar models. How does the model that they're looking at compare to these other ones? Make sure things are lining up. If there's any biases, is it too cold? Is it showing that the storm is moving too fast across the country on a consistent basis? And trying to just document these errors over time. So they use a combination of statistics and case studies. And Alicia will explain why that's important.
for the statistics that we calculate, we do them for all of our operational models. And it's basically to say, what are the known modeling issues? Say in winter, over a certain region, temperatures coming out of a particular model are always too cold. That you could see in an average statistical sense, but then you could also find individual cases, like individual case studies, to prove that point and show forecasters in real time.
So there's a few specific models that I wanted to highlight that they have developed. We looked at the global forecasting system, the GFS, at the beginning, but they also have these more regional models that are higher resolution. One is the HRRR, High Resolution Rapid Refresh model. They also have some other ensemble-based short-range models, so only going out a few hours into the future, and these are really useful for summertime severe thunderstorms and looking at those specific types of weather events on a kind of more high resolution basis instead of having to solve these equations for the entire globe. And one of the biggest advancements that has come from these models in looking into the future is how we capture those initial conditions. And Alicia will kind of talk about that here.
I think one of the biggest things that we've done in the last 25 years is improve the observations of initial conditions. So we're capturing the atmosphere in its current state better. And that's because of the advent of satellites that are, more numerous and help us get data from places that were data sparse before, meaning like we didn't have observations. You can think of that like the middle of a desert, the middle of an ocean.
So you have to take all these initial conditions through a process called data assimilation in order to figure out what's happening in between those observation points in the atmosphere. That's a huge improvement that has happened over the past couple of years. Another huge improvement has been to our supercomputers. This center uses some of the most advanced supercomputers in the world because they need to run, for example, these models 4 times per day, especially the global ones, out into several weeks into the future, as well as develop new models. So you have those models that are being used in day-to-day operations, plus on these supercomputers, you're running models that are in development, and those could have multiple different variations running on that same supercomputer to figure out which one is going to be the best, to then fix that model, iterate it into the future in order to get a better result and more accurate forecast. And there's 2 main supercomputers that they use, one in Phoenix and one in Virginia, because they want to keep these on 2 separate power grids in case something catastrophic were to happen. You would always have one of these supercomputers up and running at all times. Some of the latest research coming out of the Environmental Modeling Center is with a hurricane analysis and forecast system that would track a hurricane on its forecast track, hone in on that and try to figure out exactly where the hurricane will go, look at specific parameters with especially tropical forecasting. The rapid refresh forecast system, that will hopefully combine a lot of our regional models that we have right now, the high resolution things that we're especially using for severe summertime weather, into one kind of ensemble based model. And then the seasonal forecast system, that they hope to use to forecast out to a year for the first time. So looking at that longer time scale. And that's the key with the Environmental Modeling Center. It's a bunch of different models that they're developing and improving over time for a bunch of different time scales to give us the best information. There's so much data out there so that we can, at the end of the day, create the best forecast and then pass that information along to you.
So amazing. I mean, technology has changed and all the trillions of calculations. The accuracy of the 7-day today was 3 days back in the 80s.
Yeah, isn't that
so I mean, it's
wild?
amazing how you go out in
So
the future.
Imagine what it'll
accurate.
be like in another 20 years.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
you got to think what's behind those
Yeah.
models, what's behind the forecast.
It's all in how it starts.
Right, and the
Yeah.
Environmental Modeling Center, big part of that.
Yeah,
All
thanks,
right.
Jacob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jacob.